And within the past hour, the International Criminal Court has said it is seeking arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister and top Hamas leaders for war crimes for their part in the Gaza war. The ICC prosecutor alleges there is evidence to suggest Mr. Netanyahu and his Defence Minister Yoav Gallant had used starvation as a method of warfare against civilians. The arrest warrants for 3 leaders of Hamas are in connection with the October the 7th attacks in Israel. The ICC says the decisions were the outcome of an independent and impartial investigation. Judges will now decide whether to grant the warrants. Let's go live to The Hague and our correspondent there, Anna Holligan. Anna, first of all, what more can you tell us about that background leading up to what's happened today?
Well, this request for arrest warrants was widely anticipated. There was speculation a few weeks ago. It had gone quiet, and now we have this statement from the ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan. You mentioned there starvation as a method of warfare. This allegation from the prosecutor is that people are starving in Gaza not by accident, but as a deliberate common plan designed by the leadership. So the focus really, in terms of the allegations made by the ICC prosecutor Karim Khan against Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, are that they are deliberately starving the population of Gaza as part of a method of warfare. But there are other allegations here. There's a catalogue of war crimes and crimes against humanity that Karim Khan alleges both are responsible, including starvation, willfully causing great suffering. I'm just reading through the allegations here. Intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population as a war crime, extermination or murder, persecution and other inhumane acts. And at the same time, and this is also something we were expecting if the prosecutor were to request arrest warrants from the ICC judges, that he would ensure they were for each side and on the basis of the evidence that the ICC investigators have gathered. So in terms of the Hamas leadership, Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, Mohammed al-Masri, the commander-in-chief of the military wing of Hamas, and Ismail Haniyeh, head of the political bureau, they are jointly accused by the prosecutor. Now, this is ahead of arrest warrants being issued. They haven't yet been approved by the ICC judges. But the ICC prosecutor alleges they're responsible for extermination, murder as a crime against humanity, taking hostages as a war crime, rape and other acts of sexual violence, torture, cruel treatment and outrages upon personal dignity. I just scanned down through the document released by the prosecutor. He talks about some of the evidence they've gathered in order to put together the request for arrest warrants, including interviews with survivors and eyewitnesses, authenticated video, photo and audio material, satellite imagery, statement from the alleged perpetrator group. And he says that all of this shows that Israel has intentionally and systematically deprived the civilian population in all parts of Gaza of objects indispensable to human survival. And he talks about a siege on Gaza, the closure of the 3 border crossing points, including Rafah, Kerem Shalom and Erez, from the 8th of October for extended periods, restricting the transfer of essential supplies, including food and medicine, restricting water for prolonged periods. These are by far the most extensive arrest warrant requests I have seen from the ICC, and it's also happening, of course, in a time where this is a very live and active conflict. Previously, the ICC issued arrest warrants for President Putin over the invasion of Ukraine. We have to be very clear here. No arrest warrants have yet been issued. The process is such that the ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, gathers the evidence until he believes a certain threshold has been met that justifies the issuing of arrest warrants, but that request from the prosecutor must now go before a panel of judges. They will probably hold a hearing, probably not in public, in order to decide whether they believe there is sufficient evidence to charge these three members of Hamas, plus Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Defence Minister Yoav Gallant with war crimes and crimes against humanity, as documented here by the prosecutor Karim Khan.
Anna, thank you very much for taking us through that detail. Anna Holligan there, our Hague correspondent. Well, we can speak now to Sir Geoffrey Nice, the barrister and judge who took part in the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia and was lead prosecutor at the trial of Slobodan Milosevic. Thank you very much, Sir Geoffrey, for your time today. Let's pick up where Anna left off and tell us a little bit more about the process now, because the key word here is that the chief prosecutor of the ICC is seeking arrest warrants. What happens next?
By the way, only over a part-time judge and not in the international court. Well, the next process is that part of the process is that the judges assess what Mr. Khan relies on, and if they issue arrest warrants for one or all of the people concerned, then if they don't surrender themselves or get surrendered by the country in which they live to the court, then if they visit another country which is a state party to the court, then that country has to surrender them to the court. So that's the process.
OK, that's the process. How long does that take, typically, or is there a typical amount of time?
Well, it depends, doesn't it? If the person is in a country which isn't going to surrender him or is not a state party like Israel, if he stays in that country and nobody is going to hand him over, there's no change of regime in the way that there was, for example, in the former Yugoslavia that led to Milosevic being handed over, then he may never be handed over. So I can't give an answer. It is an uncertain period of time.
What do you make of these arrest warrants being sought for both Hamas and Mr. Netanyahu and other senior Israeli politicians?
I'm sure everybody will see that as very, very good news in the sense, without expressing a view on the culpability of either side. This shows an even-handed approach to criminality that is being alleged by and against both sides, separate incidents in one way, connected in another. And so I think it's very good that the warrants have been issued against Hamas, because to some extent in recent weeks, the commentary about Israel has rather blocked out the fact that what has been done by Hamas is arguably, or if not almost unarguably, criminal. And of course, one of the reasons that you heard less about that is because Israel is a state and its officials against whom arrest warrants can be issued, as they have been, is more responsive to international activity. Hamas is referred to always in terms that means it doesn't respond to international activity. What's quite interesting, and I'm sure your viewers will want to remember this, is that after Operation Protective Edge, that was the previous big battle in 2014, one of the people now subject of an application for an arrest warrant, Ismail Haniyeh, said how much he would prefer the court to be involved at that stage. And the following year, the Palestinian Authority granted the International Criminal Court the jurisdiction which they are now exercising. So at that stage, there was a willingness, if not even an enthusiasm, by those representatives within Palestine, the West Bank, and in Gaza to face the International Criminal Court. The saddest thing may be that in the intervening, however many years it is since 2014, 2015, 8 years, not enough has been done by the International Criminal Court. And that's not necessarily Mr. Khan, because he's relatively recently in office, to show that the court's really prepared to take Israel on. People may have started to wonder whether, as they'd wondered in the past, whether maybe pressure would be being applied to slow things down.
Sir Geoffrey, we are out of time, but thank you very much for your thoughts on that, Sir Geoffrey Nice. And we'll be live in Jerusalem shortly to get reaction from there to this news from the International Criminal Court.